This is First Nations TV. My name is Kalem Murray, and in the studio with us today, we have a special guest who's joining us here today to talk about some things in terms of retirement and a lot of other things that are going on with his life. And that is none other than the Minister for Local Government, Housing and Community Development, and Minister for Public Employment, Minister Gerry McCarthy. Thank you very much for joining us today, Minister, and welcome.
Thank you, Kalem. It's great to be back.
You've made a huge announcement, not just for yourself, but for a lot of the people out there. I think it's a good step for yourself, and we'll be discussing why you've made this decision. And that is, of course, your retirement.
Yes.
Yes. Why are you retiring? Let's get straight to the point.
Family, really. Yeah. You've got to know when your time is up in terms of your formal working life, and a time that family demands more quality time with them. And in my life, it's now about my kids and my grandkids. It's a plan that you need to have, and my family, the McCarthy family, said to me, righto, we don't want you to stand and serve another term in government. We want you to spend quality time with your grandkids. You're not getting any younger, and they're the priority in our life. So yeah, it was a sad decision, but it's a good decision. I think in politics you need a good succession plan. And so I've had a young man working with me as an electorate officer in the Barkly on the front line for 5 years. And I'd planned that I would hand over to Sid Vashist in 2024. So it would mean that I would stand for election this year in August. And then if I was judged worthy and won it, then I'd serve another 4-year term and then put Sid up for, as a candidate. The family and life circumstances and those discussions were had this year, around January, February, and we brought it forward. And he's got a very special agenda, and that is he's been a youth worker in the past. He's got a degree in business, but he's been a youth worker. He's run a youth diversion program. I want him to really concentrate on being a strong voice in government, hopefully, for the Barkly, to look at a generation of kids between 10 years of age and 16 years of age across the Barkly, essentially across the territory, that really need some help and support, and in turn supporting their families so that they can make the best of their true life opportunities.
Excellent. So the previous night you had a bit of a retirement get-together from people you know in media, as well as people just yourself personally. And I believe you're telling some stories of the first times you actually became a minister.
Yeah.
Do you want to, for the people that weren't there, do you want to repeat? I heard one especially about how you first, when you first sat down into joining the office and a bit worried about your employment.
Yeah, that's correct. It's called a valedictory. So when you enter Parliament, when you're elected to Parliament, you give a maiden speech. And when you leave Parliament, you get a valedictory speech. And it's a protocol, it's a tradition, it's not timed, and so you can put down your thoughts and your ideas and your aspirations, or recount your political career, whatever you want to do. It's the last time that you get to put that down on the public record. Oh, wow. So it's very privileged to be able to put down your life onto the public record. And so the valedictory last night, I chose to have a bit of fun. It was about celebrating my 12 years in the Northern Territory Legislative Assembly as the member for Barkly, and being very privileged as being a minister over 8 of those years. So 2 terms of government I served as a minister. I was elected in 2008. And it was that first wet season I was preparing for, and we had a major rain event, like a 1 in 100 year event, where there was 400 mils dropped in a very concentrated area of the Rankin River out on the Barkly Tableland.
Yep.
Well, it washed out a 70-metre section of the Barkly Highway. I mean, took it out. It was gone. It just dropped either side, east and west, for about 4 metres back into the river, and it was gone. So we had people backed up both sides. Traffic was stopped. You couldn't cross it. Black soil plains. There was no detours. And I was the local member. So you had all the roadhouses and the businesses, and then businesses up the Stewart Highway were all affected because tourism stopped.
Yeah.
I had all these teachers and Territorians trying to get back in from holidays, and so as a local member, I was just getting hammered by everybody. People that were stuck, people that were in business, people that couldn't get home, people that couldn't get out of the Territory. So it was a really difficult time, and I was trying to navigate my way through this situation using all the government services that engaged to start to repair this and to put in a temporary crossing. But it wasn't going to happen overnight. It took quite a while to get the traffic going again. So I get to Darwin, I've got my little office, I'm a backbencher, and I set up in my office, and there's a knock at the door, and I open the door, and here's a Chief Minister's staff member, and this gentleman said, "The Chief Minister wants to see you." Well, I thought, righto, this is it, the end of a career. So I got all my notes and my folders and everything under my arm, and I reported to the Chief Minister's office, and I knocked on the door. He said, "Come in." And I walked into his office. He said, "You sit down there on the lounge."
Which Chief Minister was this?
Paul Henderson, who's a big guy, right?
Yeah.
He's a big man. And
always had that crew cut as well.
Yeah, he was. So he was looking down at me, and I thought, oh, here we go. It was a good career, but a short career. And he said, "Gerry, I'm going to make you a minister." And the rest is history.
Oh, wow. So that's got to be an insane way to get a promotion.
It was amazing. I eventually, that year, became the Minister for Construction.
Okay.
So it was construction and infrastructure. It was DCI, and the department were nominated in a national award for the rebuilding of the Barkly Highway. So,
well done.
So as the minister and the local member, I got to go back and watch all the engineering that they did to rebuild that causeway over the Rankin River.
Speaking of roads, you also we also found out that you're a bit of a Honda rider.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I love motorbikes. I ride a Yamaha.
Oh, cool.
A Cruiser. What were you riding in the past?
All dirt bikes, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Hondas. I told the story of Uncle John. He's a very cool cat, a member of our family, and he worked for Bennett Honda in Sydney and in Mascot, and he travelled New South Wales supplying motorcycles to the dealerships all across the state. Well, he was very into bikes, and so as kids he took us to the Sydney Showground Speedway, so I grew up loving solos and sidecars.
Yeah.
And he raced, so we were going to they used to call them short circuit events, and they were all over the rural area surrounding Sydney. So we travelled with him a lot, met a lot of his mates, and just had a ball. And of course Uncle John worked for Honda, so there was a different motorcycle in the yard every night. and we terrorised my poor mother, because it wasn't long before there was a motocross track established in the backyard of Greenacre.
Of course, yeah.
So her washing and her garden and everything suffered, but there were...
but for a good reason.
Well, absolutely. My brother and I and Wongley, the cousin, there were 3 generations of us all lived in the 3-bedroom home, and we just got hooked on motorcycles. So I rode motorcycles through Teachers College in Western New South Wales. When I came to the Territory, I rode motorcycles, and mine were always dirt bikes, nothing over 250cc, and loved Hondas, yeah.
Are you still riding now?
Whenever I can. I don't own a motorcycle. I said to my wife, I'm definitely buying one in retirement, and she's not convinced that that's a good idea, but I'm okay on bikes when you know your limits.
Would you get a dirt bike or one of more like a road bike or something like that?
To buy a bike, and I hope my wife's listening, because you can help me here, Kalem.
Oh yeah.
A 200cc ag bike.
Yep.
So I want a bike that I can hook gear on, because wherever I've ridden, I used to live on cattle stations, and I did a lot of cross-country riding. I like to carry water, tyre repair equipment, some survival gear, and so I want a bike that has some carrying capacity, has low gear ratio for going off the tracks and cross-country, and a bike that is suited to my senior years, shall we say.
I'm sure there's a lot of brands out there that'll perfectly suit your needs.
Honda, I'm looking at Honda. Can't go past Honda.
Kawasaki, there was some really good ones, off-road bikes like that. Anyway, let's talk about something else other than bikes. While you're still as a minister, are there any things that you're hoping to actually implement or put through before you retire?
Yeah, we've got some really important work in public employment. So we're closely looking at short-term contracts and getting these jobs made permanent. We're doing a big assessment in Nhulunbuy and the surrounding area. We then want to move to Katherine and Tennant Creek. It's just looking at a lot of casual jobs in the public sector that can be made permanent. We're reviewing the Act, the Public Service Employment Act. We're looking at portable long service leave scheme in the community services sector, looking at portable long service leave essentially in general. So these are important it's important work to leave behind, to know that you really did contemporise the public sector, that I did my bit about improving and modernising the public sector. I was a public servant for 30 years as a teacher. Local government housing and community development. Local government, we were the first government in Australia to provide the support packages to the regional councils and municipal councils in the COVID-19 pandemic response.
Yep.
So that's been really important to implement, and local government is surviving well at this stage in the Northern Territory. They're very appreciative of what the Labor government's done. So I'm watching that closely, as it's been very, very challenging times. In housing, of course, we were held up a little. However, you guys did a brilliant story on some pre-constructed housing last week. So there were parts of the housing program, remote Indigenous housing program, that we were able to keep going through COVID-19. But now, with the Lands Councils lifting the Biosecurity Act, we're now ready to mobilise, absolutely, and get communities back working again.
What are the next communities that can be looking forward to these increase of housing?
Across the 73 communities, but there were 7 communities across the Northern Territory that were non-leased. We didn't have agreements in terms of their leasing. Everybody's joined on. So you're going to see some work now rolling out. Places like Dagaragu, Amungana, Haas Bluff. These places will now start to have housing programs commenced because they've basically been off the list for all this time. So that's a good outcome. And I've said to the department, we need to get work rolling there as well to show people what everybody else is experiencing. Communities, I'm really proud to say, working with the department, that communities now have a higher level of trust with us because they're seeing the real work taking place. And the really nice comments, the positive comments are they've got a government that is listening. And that's all our local decision-making policies. So, yeah, it's good to see. We're in the business now of finalising a new homelands policy. So, communities across the Northern Territory need to have a good look at what the Labor government will present in terms of how we will address homelands into the next term of government. And I'm really proud to say that I'm working closely with our members and the department, and we are looking forward to engaging the Lands Councils and the Commonwealth on extra resources, because wherever we go in the Northern Territory through local decision making, communities are telling me housing programs started, it's on track, it's going well, but what about homelands? So listen to communities. We know homelands are great places for good health and for well-being and for culture. So we're going to put a really good policy together to present. And you'll see some exciting, well, if it all goes to plan, Kalem, you'll see some exciting work going on in the next term for homelands.
Excellent. So before we wrap up for this morning, it's now turning the afternoon. What are you planning for the future after retirement?
I'm going to be very busy in another election campaign, but it won't be my name on the call flute. It'll be Sid Vashis, the Labor candidate for Barclay. So that's going to be intensive work, and that will all come to a point on the 22nd of August, which is the main election day. So 23rd of August, my wife and I have said we are going to sit down at a table and we are going to start planning. What will the future be, as we both will be in retirement, and then we'll see what that brings. There's some immediate things, as we have 2 foster kids, a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old, so that will be the immediate planning and planning with their mum, who's also a close kin relative of our family.
Sure.
But I'll tell you one thing that I can guarantee, I will be writing.
Oh, yeah? Or like
Yes.
a memoir or an autobiography or just fiction, non-fiction? I
It's
like writing a lot, so...
Oh, good,
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
It's I've done the first volume, and it's autobiographical. However, all the names have been changed to
Of course.
protect the
Yes,
guilty.
yeah.
So it's almost fiction. But
Almost.
I'm going to. There's 3 more volumes to write, because there were going to be 2. But then I went into politics.
Okay.
So there's going to be a 4th.
I'm sure that'll be incredibly interesting, especially for the local people in Darwin.
We'll see.
I'm looking forward to read that for sure. Well, we can only wish you the best of luck in all your future endeavours, and we look forward to seeing what else you'll be doing in the meantime before you hit that retirement goal.
Thank you, because in the meantime we're going to do a couple more bush trips.
Yep.
I want to keep that housing program going after the COVID-19 crisis. We're back in business. We're back on track. The communities are welcoming that. So I'll do a couple more trips. Hopefully you guys can come with us.
Sure.
And maybe I'll get back in the studio to see you before I disappear back into the Great Barclay.
Thank you so much once again, Minister, for joining us today. And like I said, we wish you all the best in the future.
You are most welcome, and thank you to First Nations Television and Radio for the incredible work you do, and especially during this really challenging time we've had in managing what is a global pandemic of a COVID-19 virus. So well done.
Thanks once again, and best of luck.